Hey, yo, mic check, 1 2 1 2. What's going on with y'all, man? What's happening? If you've been rocking with me, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome. It's your dread-headed host with yet another dose, keeping you engrossed from coast to coast. That's right. Now, it's been a long time. And for some of y'all, if you've been rocking with me, this is a little bit new. Now we finally got the V to go with the A for some AV Productions. Hey, if you just got here, I got some content. I've been doing this for a little while, doing podcasts for a while over on my SoundCloud. I'll drop a link in the description below. If you like what you heard, you want to go check out some of that. There's also some music out there. I do a lot of different things. So if you're new, welcome. If you've been here, thank you. And let's just jump into today's topic, if you will. Now, I know the news, for the most part, has been dominated with a lot of different things. You know, you got the coronavirus, obviously. The OnlyFans link, obviously. But one thing that happened over this past week, in the last couple of days, in the last 3 days, that got some passing notice by your major news outlets was the execution of a man named Nathaniel Woods down in Alabama. Now, if you're not familiar with this case, I just heard about the case basically after he was executed. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on everything that was going on. But as I read into it, because it did seem a little interesting just on surface level with some of the things in the headlines. As I read into it, there are so many things that go into this that call this execution into question. Now, first, I'm going to say this right now. I'm not with the death penalty. There are a lot of heinous crimes and actions that a person can commit that one could consider worthy of the death penalty. Now, the problem with that is there are so many people, as we know for a fact, that end up getting executed that later you come to find out with more evidence comes to light, or someone ends up telling the truth about a lie they might have told about someone whistling at them on their dying bed. You know, people lose their lives that shouldn't be losing their lives. Now, are there people that are executed that arguably should be executed? Sure. But there are a larger number of people that die that shouldn't. And if that number is anything above zero, it's too many. All right. If we are a civilized society, if we have the systems in place, okay, to actually try someone with a jury of their peers. All right. And we're going to get into that in terms of this case. We should not be executing innocent people. So I don't think that the death penalty, I can say that it's good just because of that high probability. It's this statistic that we can see for a fact, it's not up for debate, all right, of people that lose their lives that really shouldn't lose their lives. So I think until we can, if there's ever a way to perfect the system to where that doesn't happen, then come talk to me. But right now it's too, I don't want to say risky because that almost trivializes it. People are losing their lives that shouldn't. But there's too much of a margin of error in the way that our current process works here in the States. So I can't be in full support with it. I'm just going to put that out there right now. But let's continue. Okay, if you're not familiar with the case, Nathaniel Woods was convicted first-degree murder in the killings of 3 police officers. It was back in 2004 in Alabama, alongside Kerry Spencer. Now, this name is going to be important. I do not know the names of the police officers, unfortunately. And now part of it is because their names weren't really included that much in the articles when you go look up the case. I mean, and I'll leave some links to some articles down below so you guys can look into it too. Do your own research, of course, but let's have this conversation. I mean, I'm going to give you the information that I have. If you got some more information, let's talk about it. But I don't know the police officers' names that died, unfortunately. No one should be being killed for any reason, so I'm not going to stand behind this, all right? I feel like I have to throw that out there so that doesn't sound too biased. But the reason Kerry Spencer's name is listed on there in most of these articles is because Kerry Spencer was actually the one that pulled the trigger that killed these 3 men. Okay? Nathaniel Woods did not actually pull the trigger. He didn't pull a gun, any weapon. He did not have any actual part in the killing of these 3 men. Okay, and we know this because they went and they checked the weapon that was used, and Nathaniel's fingerprints are not on the weapon. Kerry Spencer himself, who was also convicted of the murder, the 3 murders, admitted, he confessed multiple times under oath and all of that, that he was the one that did it, that Kerry was the one that did it, that Nathaniel actually had no part in it. Now, in Alabama, their state law permits, if you are considered to be an accomplice in any way to a murder, then you can also be charged with first-degree murder. Okay? Even if you were there at the time, you had no idea what was going down. Imagine for a second, right? You go over to your friend's house, okay? You don't know they have warrants or whatever. You guys are out. Doesn't matter. Doing whatever. You have a run-in with the police for whatever reason, okay? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, your friend pulls a strap and starts busting off rounds, okay? You didn't know that was going to happen. But if, in the court, the prosecutors can prove, or at least convince the jury, that you knew that it was going to happen, that you were a willing accomplice, you too can be charged with that crime, even if you did not take the life. Now, I'm not with that. I would say if you're an accomplice, but there's facts that you didn't actually kill them, there's got to be varying degrees of that. If you didn't actually take someone's life, you shouldn't then be convicted and sentenced to die. All right? Lock them up, sure, if that's what you want to do. If you're actually a willing accomplice, something like that, you were in the wrong. I'm not going to say you were in the right. All right? But if you didn't kill someone, I don't see how the reprieve then is going to be, yes, you now have to die as well. Especially in the case where Nathaniel claims and Kerry Spencer confirms that he had no idea it was going to happen, had nothing to do with it. Now, the prosecutors throughout the case had convinced the jury that, yes, Nathaniel was culpable, and so he was charged with the first degree and then found guilty and sentenced to die. Now, let's look at let's look at some of the facts of the case here, okay? And this is going to be some important factors. I'm not a lawyer, and I wasn't able to get the court transcripts. I am not going to say he was totally innocent, okay? But I will point out the facts that do shed a reasonable doubt, which, as we know, should be at least enough, all right, for an appeal, which he didn't get. But we're going to get to that. So at the time of the trial, 84% of Alabama executions in the modern era, 84% of the executions in Alabama were for crimes involving white victims. All right, even though only 20% of the homicides involved white victims. That means that there is a clear bias in how they're choosing to execute people. Okay, if only 20% of the homicide victims are white, that means that the majority of the people getting convicted and sentenced to death and executed are from those crimes. That means that 80% are going, for the most part, with non-execution. If you are a person of color and you get killed, don't expect your killer to face execution in Alabama. All right, and that's just a fact. That's just what the stats are saying. There is definitely a bias there. I mean, take that what you want. I'm just going to give you the facts. You think about it, let's have a conversation. All right, at the time, every elected prosecutor in Alabama was white except for one. Okay, and this is just laying out the facts. Only 2 of the jurors in Nathaniel's trial were black, even though the county is mostly black. So when they say a jury of your peers, and the majority of the people that you live around are black, but then you walk into the courtroom and the vast majority of the jurors are not, you have to ask yourself, who is determining these peers? And another thing is, they blocked most of the eligible black jurors. The prosecutors blocked most of the eligible black jurors that came in, except for these 2. So it's not as though there was really a fair chance for that jury to be executed correctly. Now, let's move on. Well, no, I'm going to pause right here for a second because I want to point something out here. And this is kind of a side tangent, but it's important. When you get those calls for jury duty, and this is exactly the reason why, do not ignore them. All right, I'm talking to black folks. I'm talking to everybody. But if you want to have a trial of your peers, but your peers are people that are ignoring the jury summons because they don't want to go, they don't want to take off work, then you won't have a trial of your peers. All right, jury duty is important because you never know. You might be a juror in a trial like this, where the facts are jumbled. All right. The case isn't so, and your decision is going to be the one that stands between the man getting killed or sent to jail wrongfully or not. Maybe the trial you get called for jury duty for is like, I don't know, traffic violation that ended up going all the way to court. It's not that important. It's not that interesting. Perhaps, and then you're out of there today. But you never know. So I'm just putting that out there. I know a lot of people that don't like to go to jury duty. And again, this is for everybody. I'm specifically talking to black people because of reasons like this. All right. Representation. We got to at least try. I know in this trial, they blocked a lot of the eligible people. So I'm not going to get on anyone for that because we did come out. All right. But we got to keep doing it because the probability is high that they're just going to wave us away. All right. In places where they have that kind of bias, which is a lot of places. But let's move on with some more facts. All right. All 19 appellate court judges were white, even though 20% of the state population is black. So again, all of this is to say there's an underrepresentation, which likely leads to a bias. 9 times out of 10 is going to lead to a bias. If you don't have anyone up there, all right, that is under the same circumstances as you, looks the same as you, has your interests in mind, chances are those interests are going to get rolled over in favor of another kind of interest. And that's just, it is what it is. Something to think about. So, and these are just facts. It's not up for debate. All right. Now, another thing that happened, and this is crucial. In the midst of the trial, his lawyer, Nathaniel Woods' lawyer, left. He dropped the case. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore. He didn't file a brief for Nathaniel to get, didn't even let him know. Now, mind you, Nathaniel's in jail at this point. He has no way of knowing that his lawyer just left him. So by the time he gets word that his lawyer's flown the coop, it's too late for him to file any kind of appeals because they did go and they tried, but the Supreme Court was like, yeah, well, your deadline has passed, so no, we're not filing those appeals. So his lawyer was incompetent. Plain and simple. Simple as that. All right. If you're going to quit the job, maybe the lawyer thought the job was too big for him. Okay. At least have the common decency to let me know so I can get some more representation. Okay. Because once you get on death row, Alabama is a state that has no state funded system for providing lawyers to people on death row. They don't. So all that talk, you say, if you cannot afford a lawyer, it won't be provided for you. No. At the time when maybe he could have gotten a lawyer provided for him before he was sentenced, all right, before all the appeals process was done, he had no idea that he wasn't even represented. So there's underrepresentation on a whole nother level. He literally didn't have any representation at his own trial, which he had no way of knowing about. So again, we're going to sentence him to death. All of this is to say that the trial, the circumstances around the trial, all right, we have the admission, and they can choose to not sentence him to death. I'm not saying that they would say he's not going to be guilty, although even that, too, is up for debate because the trial was clearly botched. But if they're going to sentence a man, if you're going to sentence a man to die, state-sponsored execution, all right, that means there is no reprieve for this. No one, all right, the family's not gonna get any justice, all right. It's not like, oh, they find out that he was innocent down the line and the executioner, with that push the hammer down in the syringe, they have to get there's none of that. The state might pay a fee, but that's not a life for a life was what got us into this. But at the end of the day, after the state says, oh, you're done, no one from the state is going to give their life after the fact. You may get a payout or something like that. But can you put a price on a human life? Some debate on that. But someone who's wrongfully killed, imagine your family member is wrongfully killed by the state. I would argue that you say no. You're not just going to take the money and run. So there was a lot of protesters, right, in the past couple of days that were trying to get, thousands of people trying to get a stay of execution, petitioning the governor of Alabama to submit a stay of execution. I don't remember her name, but she refused. And she made some very pointed comments about how the case was clear and he was a cop killer, and we are not going to take this from the likes of a cop killer. The blue wall is very real. All right, blue lives matter in the South. And this is Alabama, but let's not forget Amber Geiger in Texas. All right, that ran up in a man's house and just shot him dead in his own home while eating ice cream. She got a couple years. She's not getting executed for that, but she took a life, and that much is clear. All right. Meanwhile, Nathaniel Woods, and I know it's a different state, but Nathaniel Woods, who didn't kill anyone, sentenced to die. Not even given the chance, even looking back at the facts, all these petitions, all right, again, why not just give him a chance to appeal when we have all of these things going on? And you won't hear about this. Things like this happen all the time. This is, again, I didn't even know about this. This is my first time hearing about it. But things like this happen all the time because people aren't aware, because people aren't talking about it. All right. We're talking about the Only leaks. All right. Acting like all these websites don't already exist for free. What are y'all doing? That's another conversation entirely. But my point is, we need to be conscious about this sort of thing. All right. Next time the election cycle comes up, all right, 27% of the state, that's a big percentage. All right, that's some voting power. Don't let this woman get reelected. She out here just not even looking at the facts. There's a bias there. The judges, all right, one thing I'm going to say right now, I'll get in and talk about this a little bit later in more detail, but I wonder, when we spend so much time, months, 8-9 months, worried about, the presidential campaigns for a slew of candidates just to get one spot before we even start the real debate, the campaign for the election, how much time we waste watching that and focus so much on that, and people miss their local election cycles. Because I don't see that kind of energy like, oh, we're having these elections. Sometimes you do for the midterms. But I wonder, your appellate court judges, people aren't even thinking about that. There have been plenty of times in the past where I've gotten to the polls and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that I was going to have to vote for all this today. I don't know any of these people. But we're over here talking about Mike Bloomberg and these women for the umpteenth time. All right? Come on. So, again, the wool's being pulled over your eyes. I'm not going to say stay woke because it's a cliche, but once you take the red pill, you can't go back, Cypher. But all right. That's going to wrap it up for this one, y'all. Again, this is a conversation. So I just heard about this. If you guys have any more information, your thoughts on the situation, let me know down in the comments. We'll have some back and forth about this. Hey, share this with your friends. This is one of those things. I don't want to ruin your day or anything like that, but I feel it's necessary to talk about. All right? Because there's a lot of things with this that just didn't go right. So at the very least, and we want to speak power to action. All right, we want to take it to that next level and actually do something about it. So I'm talking about getting involved in your local elections and all that. All right, but if it's not on our mind, if we're not even on our radar, we didn't even have time to really form a movement to do something. They had a man, Bill Hemmer on Fox News. He was talking with Martin Luther King III, or Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, who was obviously a part of these movements to try to get a stay of execution, get some appeals in before they executed this man who may or may not have been innocent, may have been innocent, all right? Innocent until proven guilty, right? Technically, they found him guilty, but the way that the court process worked and all of those ins and outs, they found him guilty under the wrong, I would say, insufficient evidence. Insufficient. But they had a conversation, and Bill Hemmer from Fox News, of course, they, again, media bias. Martin Luther King Jr., or Martin Luther King III, laid out the facts pretty much the same way that I did. He was like, well, Bill's like, why do you think we should stop it? He killed these people, blah, blah, blah. Already came with the bias. And he said, here are the facts. I think it was botched. I think we should at least give it a chance now that we have the resources in the modern day, because this whole trial happened in 2005, right? 2004, 2005. So we've definitely come a long way in the last 15 years, all right, in terms of our representation, how we look at things, how we can gather evidence. So why not, before we just kill someone who may be innocent, But Bill Hemmer will go on to say, well, why do you think he's innocent? We just have to be clear with our viewers. I'll link the thing down and below if you want to put yourself through that. But I point this out because, unsurprisingly, it's Fox News, but that that bias, right? While Bill Hemmer is just trying to shoot it down, like, you don't have any evidence and this, that, and the other. And, Martin's just like, that's exactly what I'm saying. We need more evidence. You can't tell me why he's guilty, right? And I'm trying to tell you all the reasons why he may be innocent, so there's reasonable doubt, but they weren't trying to hear that. So, hey, when they do report stuff on the news, they're going to have their own biases. So make sure you look up the facts for yourself. Do your own research, all right? Cite your sources. Otherwise, shut up. But hey, if you're rocking with me this long, thank you. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.